Test, test, test. Test, test, test.
Probably are.
Julie's over there, Callie's not down here.
We'll call our January board meeting to order. Thank you all for coming this evening. Will you please stand for the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you all. We're ready for item 3.03, our superintendent comments.
Thank you, Dr.
Take
Towers.
it away.
Good evening and welcome to tonight's Board of Education meeting. We are glad you have joined us. We have a great group in-house with us, and hopefully we have a lot online tonight. Happy New Year to everyone.
Yay.
Was it a yee?
That was a little-
I hope everyone had a wonderful winter break. We're excited to be underway with our second part of the school year, and we know it's going to be filled with great success for our students and staff. It is January. Just want to remind everybody of the winter season and all of our I shouldn't say our issues, but there are ongoing issues with flu and the respiratory viruses and all the things that are out there. Just make sure that we're doing everything we can to make sure that we keep everybody as healthy as possible with great hygiene, as well as staying home if you're sick. That's a struggle for me, I will say that for sure. got sick a little bit before break. And just want to make sure everybody's aware of that and doing our own part to make sure that we're all healthy and moving forward. Also, we're obviously in the middle of inclement weather season. It's been, not that anybody needs to feel sorry for me, but it's been a long week with the weather. I think I'm the only one that doesn't get excited about the thought of snow, ice, or rain, snow mix, or whatever you want to call it around here, because I flat out don't like it at all. But it's my job to get up and make sure that we're safe. So speaking of that, the report for tomorrow should be rainy. Maybe a little snow in the afternoon, but we have an early release for most of our students tomorrow. Not all of them, but some of them, most of them, and we should be able to get through just fine tomorrow. So I know a lot of people were disappointed without a snow day, and I'm just fine without having one. So winter sports activity season in full swing. We just got so many great things happening all across our district, and as always, we like to say, go Pirates and go Warriors. Board of Education seats are once again up for re-election. We have 2 spots, and we have 3 awesome candidates vying for those spots in April election. Tonight, we have worked hard for our meeting. We've got a policy change, second reading. We have facilities and grounds program review that will probably be very riveting, would you say?
Yeah, that's the.
Instructional effectiveness and student achievement performance program review. I know that's going to be great as well. Yes. And also we have the district financial report. As always, we're in the midst of a very productive 23-24 school year, as I usually say, and I just want to encourage us all to continue to be safe, respectful, responsible as we continue to work together in our school year long journey together, and happy 2024 to everyone. Thank you.
Right. We're off for another great year here. And item 3.04, board communications, and we have none. Item 3.05 is audience comments. And Heidi, if you'll.
All regular and special meetings of the board shall be open to the public. Since the board desires to be a good listener and be responsive to the community, persons desiring to address the board may do so during a time so allotted on the agenda and according to established procedures. During the audience portion of each board meeting, patrons are invited by the president to speak for or against any proposal on the tentative agenda or on any other school concern. The individual is asked to identify him or herself, limit comments to a few minutes, and avoid discussing personalities. The president reserves the right to limit the number of presentations and/or length of comments. At the discretion of the president, patrons may be recognized at other times during the board meeting. The board is very interested in audience comments. According to board policy, members cannot respond during the actual meeting. The board will listen to all audience comments. If necessary, additional follow-up will occur through district administrators.
Thank you. We have 2 audience cards filled out. Teresa Lisnich.
Okay, thank you. Okay, hello, my name is Teresa Linsnick, a parent of a St. Charles High grad, a substitute in the district, and a volunteer parent advocate. First of all, grace and peace to you all, and thank you for wanting to hear what I have to say. Something has bugged me for years. See, I have friends whose children have been vaccine injured. When a nurse tells a parent that their child cannot go to school unless they have their vaccine shots, this is not totally true. Many parents do not know that they can simply write a note to the school claiming a parent objection or religious exemption, and the school must allow their child to attend the school. The state of Missouri requires public schools and any private school accepting public funding to accept parent objection note exemptions, religious and medical exemptions. A parent service announcement. No shots, no school, not true. Again, no shots, no school, not true. So I am asking that our school district require nurses to tell parents that their child cannot attend school unless they get their vaccines, or write a parent objection exemption or religious exemption note. The school website says an enrolling student must provide immunization record revealing compliance with state requirements. It does not, the website does not mention that a parent can write a note of exemption for vaccines. Parents must know their child's rights, and we as a district need to make them aware that they do not have to make the decision between homeschooling their child or getting vaccines in order to send them to school. Exemptions comply with Missouri Law 210.003 and Missouri Law 167.181. The website Informed Health Choice Missouri, or ihcm.info, has info on all of what I said. It was started by a mom who both herself and her daughter were vaccine injured. Again, the website ihcm.info has info on parents' rights regarding vaccines. So I am asking that our school district require nurses to tell the parents that their child cannot attend school unless they get their vaccines, or write a parent objection exemption or religious exemption. Thank you.
Thank you, Teresa. Our next card, we have the dynamic duo, Kathy Alsop and Jill Meyer.
Dr. Seifert. Red's on, okay.
Red,
Or as Dr. Seifert and we have dubbed ourselves, the Sessa Sisters.
Oh, I like that. The Sessa Sisters.
Anyway, Happy New Year, happy 2024 to the administration and school board. It's short and sweet. Jill and I, we are co-presidents of SESA, and we have started the year off with preliminary negotiations with the administration and our negotiation team.
So we're very excited for all the other things happening with negotiations and look forward to it on February 14th. So, thank you all, and hope you had a wonderful new year.
Thank you. Before we move on to item 3.06, we'll take a short break for those of you who want to get home and find a nice warm spot and enjoy the evening. This is your time to head for the door. Make a break. Yeah, just a couple of minute break. Thank you all for staying. We're going to move along with our meeting. Item 3.06, do I have a motion to amend or adopt our agenda?
I move to adopt the agenda as presented.
Do I have a second?
I second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? That motion passes. Item 4.01 is our consent agenda. For efficiency, the school board utilizes a consent agenda. Items placed on the consent agenda are routine in nature, are among the many decisions that the board has already determined or in the domain of the administration. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? That motion passes. Okay, item 6.01 is our policy reading. It's a second reading. And this policy, if you recall, actually is not one that is required by law, but it just simply, we're already doing it. A risk assessment kind of team approach to programs that we already have in place. So if there's any more discussion on that?
I have a point. I question the need for this policy since we're already doing it, but policies should be what we are required to do, right? And I would like to codify behavioral risk assessment, but I think it tells us how we should go about doing it, and that I don't like. I think if we cut off the first two paragraphs and keep that, and the end of it tells us how we should do it. And I don't think we need to be saddling ourselves. It's just a thought, you know.
You're saying don't be prescriptive on how we achieve the assessment plan.
Exactly.
Just codify the policy for it and allow
Yes.
flexibility for the team.
Maybe we don't need the policy at all.
Yeah, my question was, yeah, what policies, I mean, we got the policy in there that says we need to make safe schools. That's policy EB or whatever it is. But what committees do we already have? I just think if we say, okay, we get this other committee going, we've already got, like you said, we've been doing this for 15 years now. So what other committees do we have right now that are, I mean, just similar to this in the schools?
Well, each school, again, varying of how they have gone about it, there are care teams, there are safety committees, those type of things. But when it comes to the actual behavior risk assessment, again, I agree, I mean, everything that you said, I think, makes sense to us. For us, having a behavior risk assessment team for us is just naturally, again, our district office. And then anytime we have a situation where we think we have a child at risk, especially in this, what we're talking about, we're working with administration and whoever's on their leadership team and/or a committee. So a lot of times it's the building level has they all have leadership teams. Mm-hmm. There are care teams that take place, as well as then obviously counselors are involved, our social workers are involved. We don't have a district, and I've gotten together a district committee to look at safety things, but in terms of a risk assessment, it would just be naturally with the CO team then working with each building if there's a specific student in the building that we're looking at a behavior risk assessment. And we've got some things in place already through our counselors, through the Aspen program, through things that we do, and we just naturally have some things in place that help with risk assessments already. Mm-hmm. So I don't necessarily know if it's a policy that we definitely have to have. It just, do we like the fact that they have some things, steps for us? The only thing that I think that I do like is that they're not saying that we have to do it. You know, the team doesn't have to be like this. To me, it's kind of just loose-ended, hey, we do have a team in place.
If it just says have a team, we're doing that. I'm looking at this as just something written, a policy in place saying that we are handling risk assessment by a method that we already have in place. But I agree with Ellen. I also don't want to get so bogged down with having it so scripted that we have to form another committee. Lord knows we have enough committees, we have enough, and then it gets so fragmented that then it's worse. So I'm kind of torn here. I like maybe that we have a policy that just says, hey, we have a policy that says we have a risk assessment team. It doesn't say how exactly what we have to call it, and it's already our central office, quote, team, who meets with whatever need arises. Isn't that the way it works? So, and by law, this MSBA already says this is not a required policy. So we could,
I think the sentence that says, all district employees, volunteers, and contractors are required to report any expressed threat or behavior that might represent a danger. I think we should definitely keep that.
and we're all mandated reporters when you.
Yeah, but mandated reporters of what? Child abuse, but not, I don't think.
I thought mandated reporting under the heading child abuse or child care would be any kind of risk that we see the child, like self-harm
know.
or.
So are you talking about just the first two paragraphs, or?
Yeah,
are you- Okay.
I'm talking about the first two.
And then Donna, when you're talking about the team, are you talking about the third paragraph too and just cutting off after each team will? Or what are we all somewhat offering?
Well, maybe if, where it says the behavioral risk, the assessment team, and it just describes the team will utilize best practices and strategies, potential threats of the district, and stop. Who says you have to, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, identify how you have to do it?
Yeah, I think we're saying the same thing. Yeah, that's what I was asking,
Yeah.
if that's what you're saying. So it's,
First three paragraphs,
Yeah.
we're saying we would keep,
right.
but then we're not listing.
Would that, Brian, what do you think about that?
I just honestly don't think we need even this. I think the schools are already doing it. I just think it's redundant, and like you said, it gets muddied and ineffective when you get too much of that going on. I think we're already doing it. And then you're also looking at, you're talking about behavior risk. You know, you have to have a very specialized team when you're talking about behaviors. You know, you really gotta, you know, who you put in that team or whatever has to be legit and trained, properly trained, not just a one-day seminar or something like that. You gotta be professionally trained in understanding the behaviors and that kind of stuff that you see. So I think we kind of leave ourselves open a little bit. I just, like I said, I think it muddies the waters. It kind of dilutes of what they're doing already.
Yeah, well, it
I'm
makes it-
looking at a behavior, maybe I'm looking at this as the quote, behavior risk assessment team are not the experts in behavioral issues, but rather the team that, as we're doing now, here gets the information and then helps organize, like meets with the high school care team or meets with the elementary team or whatever, the people who are more trained at the building levels, and that this assessment team is just kind of a coordinating body.
Yeah,
Does that
well,
make-
talking about professional training and stuff too, that's one of the things we're talking about taking out.
The
If we
second,
only kept the paragraphs themselves.
the second paragraph specifically addresses reporting. And I don't think you can say often enough who's required to report. And the people who are required to report aren't necessarily the people on the team.
Yeah.
But they are still under law and just a moral obligation to report any concern, even if they're not trained or, you know, that is what you're required to do. And so, and then let the team decide. But I think the second paragraph specifically addresses that requirement. And there is confusion, I think, among teachers and among people in the buildings. You know, should I report this? Should I do it now? Should I wait till the end of the school day? You know, no, you report something as soon as you think there's a risk.
Right.
And then let the team assess it. But that says that right there.
Maybe our decision is, as Brian says, this might be redundant because we're doing it anyway. Or should we have something, now I'm thinking of a CYA approach, that just has something in a policy that says, yeah, we're doing it, here's the policy, after removing that bottom part. So
listening to all of your comments, I think you guys are on the right page and pretty much all on the same page. My feeling is it's the optional, it's an optional policy, so I don't think we have to have it. But I think it makes, it, knowing how important risk assessments are these days, I mean, it's just a really important thing, and that's obviously why they're having an optional, you know, to me, I kind of like that, you know, the first three paragraphs don't, kind of in general, just say, hey, we think risk assessment's important.
Right.
And that the superintendent obviously will have a team somehow, and it's a natural team at this point for us, as you guys understand that. And I like the fact that maybe not have those steps that kind of hamstring us a little
Yeah.
bit. To me, I think I'd be comfortable with that, but I'm also comfortable with not having it at all, if that's the case too. I mean, I'm comfortable with anything you decide, but like, I don't think it's necessary, but I certainly think, to your point, Karen, it kind of gives everybody an opportunity to at least see something in wording that risk assessment is important, and making sure that people know that they need to report something they see.
Yeah, that reminder
So,
of man.
I don't know if that helps at all, but I mean, I can go any direction, but.
Yeah, well, was the inclusion for us to talk about just because it's a new policy, or is it because we believe that there is some type of gap that we need to address within the school district?
That's a good question. So for my specific answer is MSBA reached out to Kelly saying, hey, this has been a rather new policy that's optional. Are you guys going to adopt it, basically? Wanted to know if we were going to do it or not. That's pretty much how it came up. So it's not something that, and central office team folks, please speak up. I'm not necessarily think it's a necessary, like, well, oh my gosh, we don't have the necessary people on board to be able to form a team when we need to find a team, and having the expertise that we have. We also have great resources with our Safe Defend group if we need it in terms of risk assessment. So I feel like we have the natural pieces in place that we don't have to have a policy to, oh my gosh, we have to put a policy like a stopgap. I just think it's, do we in general think some of these paragraphs at the beginning would be just good general statements to have?
Yeah,
That's kind of what I'm seeing at this point.
Yeah, I mean, as the board, part of our responsibility is to dictate policy that we want, you know, the district to follow and adhere to. I think this as a policy and idea, even with just the 3 paragraphs itself, isn't something that would be a bad thing, but I'm a little bit with Brian on the piece of, is it something that we need to adopt just to have another policy for it? I think it could be a better idea if our answer is, we looked, you know, at what we're doing and believe that the codification of a policy around that strengthens our district. I think that's a different story than, well, it's a new policy that MSBA recommended, let's just kind of add it, you know?
I like your idea that having, if I'm understanding,
Yeah.
I think this does say, if we adopt this policy only with the general idea of being the reminder of mandating reporting and all that general information, it simply strengthens our stance as a district that says we are doing these things. But it's not going into a lot of detail about, you got to form another committee, you got to step by step. So can I suggest, that means we'd have to bring this back next month for another reading? Or can we adjust it and then vote?
No, we can adjust it.
Okay. Can we consider for vote a motion that would have this policy, and I have to look at what policy JHDE UC, be amended to include the first 3 paragraphs only?
Hey, so I'm looking at this policy, and then toward the end, so after 5, teams will meet regularly, and then there's the other paragraph on the second page, after an incident, and then there's the 2 sentences, students may be subject and student record disclosure. So I think is it everything after?
You were saying you want to keep that student
No,
disclosure
no,
piece?
I'm not saying anything. We have spent a considerable amount of time talking about the first 3 paragraphs, but after each team are we saying that we would take away everything after that? Everything, including the numbers and et cetera. Just, we haven't talked about it, but I think it's at least something to put out there, just to be transparent.
That's true. I was stopping with the first 3 paragraphs, but one of my thoughts was, right after number 5, I still think that's becoming too dogmatic to say the teams will meet regularly, that's too much. But as you move down to the students may be subject to disciplinary action and referral to law enforcement, and maybe we need to keep something like that, if the team takes some kind of action, or the last part about the team may share personally identifiable student records and information for those records.
If we're keeping the third paragraph, I think you need to keep the student record disclosure because you're talking about a team, and we want to make sure the team, is.
Yeah, I meant,
Yeah, and when it comes to the meeting piece and the piece about the disciplinary action, we have all that in other policy. I mean,
Yep.
obviously, those procedures and policies are in place of, obviously, if there needs to be disciplinary actions. To me, I don't necessarily think it's talking about what we're gonna do to the student. It's about what the staff's doing with the team, at the team at this point.
so maybe we can still stop with just the first three
And then do the student
paragraphs.
record disclosure if you wanted to.
The student record disclosure.
Record.
Okay, I move to approve policy JHDE as modified to include the first three paragraphs and the student record disclosure paragraph.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. That does pass. We're ready for item 7.01, our facilities and ground program review.
All right, thank you so much. We've got Scott Bennett joining us today. Scott is the Director of Facilities. He's been in this role since July, serving in an interim capacity for several months prior to that. So he's going to guide us through this review. And so Scott, I'll turn it over to you, and I'll probably chime in here and there and hope I don't bother you at all.
Thank you for having me here tonight to be able to go over this facilities review with you on what we're doing.
Hit that talking button. There you go. You're in.
The talk button.
My
Now
fault,
I can
Scott.
be more riveting.
I've already been waiting for this presentation all evening.
Absolutely. No, thank you for having me here tonight to go over the facilities review on what we're doing in our department. I appreciate it. We obviously operate under the CSIP goal of facilities support and instructional resource, providing, maintaining appropriate instructional resources, support services, and functional and safe facilities. Our staffing, there's myself, Scott Bennett, Director of Facilities, and it is a privilege to work in this district and to provide for what I need to do in my job in this capacity, and thank you for that. We have the three supervisors, Craig, Dan, and Larry, who have been doing a great job since placed in their roles. It was a very smooth transition into placing those in their roles of supervising custodial work, and they were well accepted and doing great there. Tracy Ringling, keeping all of our finances in order in our department, shout out to her. And David Orozco for keeping up with our inventories, keeping us stocked in supplies and getting them delivered to the buildings as needed. We have a full staff of maintenance technicians at this time. We are a couple of custodial positions down due to either accepting a different position in the district or attrition, retirements. Congratulations to them. We do have candidates that are applying, so we should have those filled soon, hopefully. Moving on to our curb appeal, we have replaced all of our exterior lighting with LED. This helps us to increase our reliability of our lighting, reducing maintenance time spent on repairs, a drastic improvement in efficiency, and improves our security on our campuses. Landscaping, Jefferson Elementary, Lincoln Elementary, Jefferson Intermediate, Lincoln Elementary, and Harris Elementary were all completed in landscaping projects. Jefferson looks much nicer now as a curb appeal from the front of the building. Lincoln, for years, had bare ground out front because it was shaded, erosion problems, a difficult time getting anything to grow there. Now we have plants that just thrive in that type of environment. It looks much nicer. We recently had an RFP. Nelson Land Service was awarded that contract to continue the service in our district for providing the grass, lawn care, fall cleanup. They seem to go the extra mile and help us out during graduation time, start of school, keeping things looking nice. They're very receptive to our needs, and we're happy to have them. We have an ongoing tree care. We have a district tree inventory. It identifies the type and condition of every tree that we have in the district, whether it's in poor health, good health, or what we should expect from it for years to come. And when I call them for any services that we need, they know exactly what I'm talking about when I call them. I can refer to the map.
One of the things, Scott, we could add to that is, if you drive around our district, you'll see that we have a significant number of trees on our campuses. A lot of it due to the age of the buildings and when trees were planted and they've reached maturity. So that's something easy to overlook, in my opinion, is seeing that tree inventory and saying, okay, well, yeah, that's nice, but it is used. It is used quite a bit because maintaining our trees is very expensive. And we're not in the business of cutting them down, obviously. We want to preserve as many as we possibly can. And so that is why we have that. That's why we have the condition report on it. And it's also something in our community, we hear from our community on. We take down a big tree, one that's, 70-plus years of age, we're going to hear about that at some capacity. So we do want to have documentation onto why we had to take that tree down. It's not something that we do firsthand, it's not something we look at doing.
Right, we'd much rather preserve it. And it doesn't take long after any storm that comes through to notice that St. Charles High has limbs down all over the place. Those trees are aged and brittle. If we move on to safety and security, we're still continuing our process of rekeying all of our buildings to provide an accurate and very detailed inventory of keys. We know where every one of our keys are for every building that has been rekeyed. We know who is in possession of that key, and we know exactly what that key will operate. It's very important for us to collect the keys upon departure of any employee, and we've been successful in doing so. Currently, St. Charles High, Success, Monroe, Lincoln, Harris, Coverdell are completed. Blackhurst is in progress. We have all of our exterior doors and first floor windows labeled now. This gives us the opportunity to have emergency response present where needed very rapidly. They can do so from outside the building without guessing where they're responding to. We have accepted a state grant to install safety laminate on all of our main entrances of our building. Next week, we are meeting with many contractors interested in performing these services, and we're getting quotes from them to find out who will accept to come in and go as far as we can with the money that's been granted to us. Hopefully, we can get through all of our buildings. We have not recently, it's been ongoing, but we've been working on getting the lead out of school drinking water due to the legislation that required us to do this testing. We drew 589 samples of water that were used for ingestion, cooking, kitchens, whatever. And out of those 589 samples, 73 failed to come in below 5 parts per billion. And we have replaced 40 fixtures and successfully returned those to service, and we have ongoing remediation to get through the rest of them and return them to service.
Yeah, if I could speak to that just briefly. The EPA actionable level is 15 parts per billion. Our state is wanting us, all schools, to be at 5. So our levels were certainly, we didn't know what we're going to get into with the testing begun. And an outside company draws those samples, and then a different company is the one that tests them to get the results. That way there is no conflict into anyone saying that there was any manipulation done to the testing. So we're pleased with the results on that. We're pleased so far with our response to that as far as getting those back, being live again. And we will very easily meet the state mandate by August of 2024, being fully and safely lead-free under those 5 parts per billion while we open those facilities back up.
How many of the 73 have been replaced and how many are left?
Would you say 40?
40 have been replaced,
40,
and they've been returned to service.
Okay. And the other 33 are before August?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Are any of them above the 15 parts per billion?
There were some that were above the 15. Now, I want to be careful in saying that because we tested our science labs also. So those aren't potable faucets, and kids were not drinking from those. But we did go ahead and test those facilities as well. Now we do have an agreement with the parties that say we can put up signage that guarantees kids won't be drinking from those faucets, which would mean that they would have to, but they're children, so we want to be certain that they are not using it for that
The sign
reason.
on lawns with sprinklers that says, "Don't make tea from this water."
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
So, every school district's going through this right now, and, we had 90, I cannot remember, 95% or something like that success rate, being under that 5 parts per billion, so we were pleased with that. Again, going into it, we're sweating. We're like, I don't know, some of these pipes were designed 50 years ago, and we don't know what kind of soldering they used when they made these pipes, so.
I was very impressed with the relatively low number that did fail, because I was expecting much more work to come out of this, and we did really well. We've received a lot of praise from the testing companies for being well ahead of the curve, because there are districts out there right now that are just now coming forward going, yeah, we need to get this done. And it's going to be a rush for
I
some.
was gonna add to that, we jumped on it really quickly, and then we've included a lot of other faucets that other people have not, so.
Our primary purpose for jumping on, there was a lot of reasons, trust me, safety being one. But the second part, we didn't know about supply chains. We got really nervous, like how would the supply be depleted knowing that 500 and some odd school districts in Missouri, approximately 520 school districts, are trying to achieve the same mean. So we got pretty nervous about that. So I think we were the third one in the St. Louis region to make it. I think there were 2 other school districts. Not that it was a competition, but I'm certainly watching.
Not there's a competition, but
yeah.
apparently it is.
We're in good shape, though.
Is it localized? Just curiosity, was it kind of across all of them for like the 33 that are left, or is it kind of specific to it's mainly just a specific number of buildings?
The majority of the ones that are left now are the science areas, art areas, places that the water wouldn't be used for ingestion. And the only reason that they were tested versus testing in any other school district was because there was a coffee pot or a coffee cup or a cup sitting nearby that sink. They had to assume that water could have been ingested, so they tested it. If we had not had any kind of devices used for ingestion close by, they would not have even tested those.
Gotcha.
Because that's not normally an area that you would use for ingesting.
That you'd expect, right? Is it like at specific schools though, or is it kind of across all of them? Like is High or West or Lincoln or anybody
West,
driving most of
I
it?
think we're down to the majority at West right now, the West Science area.
It's kind of, okay.
But it was across the board. The failures in whole were across the district completely.
Okay.
Right.
There was nothing really specific, no major failures in any one building.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
I just want to make sure the complete report's been on the website for
Probably since October, I believe. I don't
So
want to
this
misstate it,
information's
but
been
I believe
out
it's been
for
out there
people to see.
since October. The other piece to it is as we update and then retest, because we have to retest once the fix is performed to make sure it is adequate, and we don't have to extend back into the walls to find a piping issue potentially. A new reports will be added to that report to show that it is below that 5 parts per billion. Surprisingly, some of our newer faucets,
Some of the newer ones actually failed.
were the ones
when-
produced, it was faucets, maybe manufactured in a certain country, were the ones that were producing some of the failures, not so much the piping.
The buildings I may have been concerned about would have been Benton and High and Success being the older buildings. They were the ones that passed with the best numbers. Construction and.
You gotta make sure the
where am I?
superintendent's water
Energy
is-
consumption.
Oh, I
Right?
was just gonna make a joke that if
You
it's
gotta
only
make sure the
here-
superintendent's water is clean, right?
Right, water's clean and the air is cool.
But we care about,
Just add a
care
little
about the
humor.
students first, Jason.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
We've done a lot of projects to improve energy consumption throughout the district, building-wide automation systems, changing over to LED lighting, interior and exterior, many HVAC improvements. That was a combination of bond, ESSER funding, and some capital funding to complete that. Some of the results of the work that we put forth, a couple of notable ones, the line for Harris. In 25 months, we have had a total savings of $101,570 that we have not had to spend in electric. The good thing about all of these savings is it's not a one-time savings. It's going to be ongoing. It's just what we're not going to spend from now on. Another notable would be St. Charles High. The last 15 months, we have saved $192,700 in electric. And then an overall total savings for the last 34 months down to the last 3 months, district-wide for the improvements that we have done, is a savings of $588,000, money that we haven't had to spend in utilities, constantly recurring every year. This summer, I'm sorry?
That was me, Scott, my apologies.
Oh,
Because we're getting ready to have a weekend of horrible conditions as far as temperature is concerned, that building-wide automation has proven to be crucial for us, and as far as being able to track what our temperatures are inside the buildings, but also having our HVAC technicians have the ability from home to receive alerts on if a system were to go down. So, we're getting ready to have a 3-day weekend. It happens to be the 3 coldest days potentially of the year, well, of course, of 2024, but of the winter season so far.
Right.
And, that's just peace of mind. There's a bit of peace of mind with that.
it's a huge peace of mind, because if we have a boiler failure in a school and we're out over winter break and we have some severe cold weather, that alert is crucial so that we can respond to get that repair made, because if we're not there, if we don't have someone come through and check the building for 2 or 3 days, we could freeze sprinkler systems and end up with major floods. We've had those just from areas that was an unknown, so we have to react.
That is a great peace of mind, but I'm still nervous.
Peace of mind for me. This summer, we have Hardin and St. Charles High on the agenda to receive building-wide automation, LED lighting, and some HVAC improvements. Hardin is pretty much building-wide. St. Charles High is an ongoing to finish up what we've already begun there. The remaining buildings after we have completed this summer's projects will be Jefferson Intermediate, Early Childhood, 3800, the Operations Building, and Lincoln Elementary. They're operating under a system of control, but it's a different system that we're going to that isn't as efficient and requires more manual intervention to watch over things and change settings. Construction improvements that we have used for bond to complete since our last report. Monroe Phase 2, the interior of the building has been completely renovated at this point. All interior is complete and updated HVAC systems, LED lighting, controls. It's like a new building on the inside. St. Charles High press box has been completely rebuilt, replaced. We have a couple of minor punch list items to take care of, and our electrical panel boards are on back order, but we're operating on what was existing before we started, so it doesn't really have a huge effect on us. Blackhurst addition, the kitchen and the cafeteria renovation are the same, is in the same boat. A few minor punch list items to take care of, working with the contractors on those, and we're awaiting the panel boards that are on back order for those as well. Again, still continuing to use what's there, so it's not really affecting us. Null Elementary, the renovation and the storm shelter addition. The renovations on the interior are ongoing. We still have some sprinkler systems to install this upcoming summer and a few interior renovations of the existing building. Minor stuff compared to what we did last summer. The majority of it's done. We're looking at a July completion date for all of the renovations and the storm shelter completion. Lincoln's kitchen addition and renovation, that one's kind of exciting. It was interesting to watch that entire kitchen go away and to build a new one from the ground up. That is going well. That also has a July estimated completion date, and there are some interior renovations at Lincoln that need to be completed as well. We need to remove the unit ventilators out of the classrooms and get those built back in with some actual useful space for them. Rebrick the front of the building so that it looks original again without those unit ventilators in place. Harris's Playground, that was removed, and we have completed replacing it. It was deteriorated beyond repair. It had seen its age, it lived its life, so we removed it and replaced it. Very nice playground. They're very happy. Potential bond spending upcoming, Hardin. The retaining wall in the back of Hardin and the art wing area is deteriorated. We have erosion problems back there with the sidewalks and the retaining walls. It only made sense to make that our next priority, to get that art wing removed and get that building addition going so that we could get those spaces back to those folks. Couple of flooring items that need to be done are Hardin's flooring. It doesn't take much to walk into Hardin and look around and know that this flooring needs to be replaced. And St. Charles West flooring, not all of it, a lot of it is the old softer tile that certainly needs to be updated. The tail end of the bond money would be a media center for Jefferson, just to remodel and update that. We definitely need to get some updates in there. Technology's come a long way for those students to be needing a space to utilize that. The old unit ventilators in the classrooms need to come out. Again, just like Lincoln removed those and replaced that with some usable space for them, shelving, storage areas, something besides a place to stack something that's not being used. And then make some district asphalt and concrete repairs as needed. As we look around, there's always some place that needs to have a repair. ESSER funds, we're on the tail end of those too, and we are using what is remaining to be received. Hardin needs its VRV, which is variable refrigerant volume for the HVAC, needs to be repiped. Many of the connections on those are failing and deteriorating. They're aluminum connections, and they cause us a lot of downtime and a lot of maintenance headaches when they do fail. So getting that VRV repiped will certainly decrease those problems. And then we are currently under construction with the school clinic in Blackhurst. Forecasting our capital spending, St. Charles West, the science hallway, fax hallway, those classroom doors are original. They've opened and closed beyond their life expectancy, and they're certainly in need of replacement and updated. So I would like to go through and replace those doors and upgrade them. The girls' softball and the batting cage on the girls' softball field is in very poor shape. I'd like to get that replaced and up to date and get that to be a nice usable space. We had to remove a playground from Monroe that failed both in our third-party inspection and with our insurance company, so we removed that immediately. And I'm looking to replace that playground with something. It's a smaller playground, so shouldn't be too bad. We have 15 water heaters around the district that are aged units. We've been replacing water heaters with the bond as we've been upgrading and renovating the interiors of building, but we have 15 more to address to get those up to date. Nothing that I believe is in a poor state or ready for failure, but due for replacement. Hardin and Knoll, the Hardin Teachers Lot parking and Knoll's front lot needs asphalt replacement. Interested in getting that done. And Harris's front entrance doors, those are the original doors that go into the main entrance at Harris. Those need replaced for security purposes and just reliability. Looking forward on bond spending.
And this would be if we were to decide to go for another bond beyond this bond spending. These are just some of the items of consideration. This isn't something that we're saying we're definitely doing. We're just giving you an idea of where our minds are right now, of what we could potentially do with money if the board so decides that it's necessary for us to go out for another bond.
Thank you, Mr. Shields. My mindset is to get the things that we currently have up to par, replace the things that are deteriorated or need improvement. Our fire alarm initiating devices, we're getting to a place where it's difficult to get replacements for our smoke detectors and heat detectors when they fail, and they're original to some of the buildings, so we really need to put this on a list for replacement to go through and put new in. RTUs, rooftop units, HVAC, that are 20-plus years old. We have approximately 27 of them throughout the district that are very aged. They require a lot of maintenance attention and could possibly lead to extensive downtime if they do fail because of lead times for parts. And in some cases, we can't get parts. We have to modify with something newer and a different method to get it to perform the way we need it to. Roofing, replacements and resurfacing. We can resurface our roof if they are 20 years or less. Resurfacing can be done at 50% of the cost of replacement. And we can have an additional 15-year warranty placed on that roof just by simply resurfacing it. If you take a 6 mil roofing material and resurface it, you're doubling the coating of the roof. So you're actually providing more protection from the elements from the building. So resurfacing is my choice if that is an option and the roof hasn't deteriorated to the point that it needs to be replaced. Anything, typically the breaking point is 20 years. So 20 years plus, we would be looking at replacement. St. Charles West boilers, there are 3 boilers. 2 of them are operating. Those are over 20 years old. And those, in my opinion, are an important item to get replaced as soon as we can. Administration, the heat pumps in this building are approximately 30 years old. Our HVAC guys keep these things going, but they require a lot of maintenance attention to keep them operating properly. Electrical panel board replacements district-wide. Many of them are original to the building. They're outdated, unreliable, need to be replaced. The drive behind Blackhurst, the concrete, if you've driven that, you can see where it's cracked and deteriorating over there. I need to figure out what's going on there and why, but we're going to end up replacing that drive. That's going to have to be done at some point. St. Charles West, the gym, the main gym, basketball court, that's the original gym floor. There are many dead spots in that for the playing area, and need to consider replacement of the St. Charles West gym. Adding a sidewalk to the south end of St. Charles West. Those are the science rooms, the same rooms that I referred to that need the classroom doors. Those egress into the grass areas. So when they have fire drills or if they have a serious event where they're going to egress out of those rooms in inclement weather, they're just going to be dumped out in the grass and mud. So it'd be good to have a sidewalk there for them to egress safely. Harris's flooring, the VCT and epoxy for some of the restrooms that they have, that was actually on this bond and it was removed just because of the cost of everything else that went up. We would like to add that back in to get their flooring replaced and the restrooms epoxied. St. Charles High, that building elevator has been a major headache and thorn in my side. It seems the elevator company is always here. The parts for that are becoming antiquated and unavailable. They are sending out the boards for repair, extensive repair times, extensive downtimes. Replacing that would be in our best interest, the main elevator at St. Charles High. Blackhurst sidewalk and the stairs on the east side of the building, the stairway that goes up towards Hardin. The erosion of that area, the ground has eroded away from it. The steps are sinking. The handrails are deteriorated to the point that entire stairwell up to that parking lot needs to be replaced. And Blackhurst and Jefferson gymnasium windows, they are original and they're in poor condition. Jefferson's leak, Blackhurst is just, they're not efficient at all. There's so much HVAC loss out those windows that we could probably get them to pay for themselves by just replacing them. That's all I have. Are there questions? Thank you for having me here, and thank you for listening.
Just a quick kudos for Scott. He's doing a great job with the department, and we're thrilled to have him lead our facilities in the future. And again, a lot of these ideas for a pending upcoming bond, and there's some other projects we're thinking about as well. So future's bright, and we're excited about Scott leading us. So I just want to make sure I add that. Thank you, Scott.
Thank you.
Thanks, Scott.
Have a good night.
I wanted to add, Scott, that we get these reports, and we certainly at our homes have already read through this information, but I so appreciate that you took a little bit of time telling us a little bit of detail of where this is and why it's being considered and what shape it's in, or it was so thorough. I appreciate that. It was a really good report.
Thank you. I didn't really know what to report, so I was winging it.
I think I would go.
Now, that's not true. We gave you a little report from last
Would you
time.
go as far as say it was a riveting
I
report?
had a guideline.
We had some
Yeah.
guides.
It's a riveting report, right? That's what we heard it was going to be.
Yes.
And I thought
You're
it was.
welcome, and thank
Riveting.
you. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. So is there any further discussion?
I
so-
move to approve the Facilities and Grounds Program review as presented.
All right, do I have a second? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? That presentation passes. Item 7.02 is our instructional effectiveness and student achievement, APR, presentation. All
right, are we ready?
We're
All right.
ready.
So, good evening, everybody. We are here to present our annual Student Achievement and At-Risk Student Report. I just wanted to highlight a couple of things before we jump into the actual report for this evening. The data that is shared this evening reflects data from last school year, from the 2022-2023 school year. And then I also wanted to note that the term at-risk is a dated term that the district has historically used. However, that term has changed under MSIP 6, and I wanted you to be aware of that because we will switch to the term student groups. We will use that term in our presentation this evening, and moving forward, that will be known as student groups. That simply reflects the demographics of students who have historically underperformed. So that includes students with disabilities, Hispanic students, Black students, students who qualify for free and reduced lunch, and then our English language learners. A couple of other things before we get started. As you know, last year you approved the restructuring of our department, of our curriculum and instruction department. And so we do have several members of our team who are present today. We have Caitlin Cromian, who is our curriculum and instruction coordinator for math and science. Dr. Jessica Rico in the back. She is our coordinator for ELA and social studies. Dr. Tina Lauer, unfortunately, had a death in the family, and she's unable to be here this evening, so our thoughts and prayers go out to her and her family during this time. And then you also approved last April the hiring of a data learning and assessment coordinator. And so Sherry Bertrand is here with us. I will say that she's pretty excited about this presentation. She has spent a lot of time.
I'm excited about more at the end of the
Yes.
presentation.
She spent a lot of time kind of diving into the data that DESE has sent out. And then a couple of days ago when we were talking about it, she's like, now who's presenting? I'm like, well, we normally split it up as a team. She's like, well, I've never not done it. I was like, okay, well, it's all yours. I'm not going to fight you over it. So we are going to jump right into the student achievement report for this evening. If you could first jump to the next slide. So just our students, who they are. We have had slight decline in enrollment over the past few years. As you can see, we dropped to 4,589 students last school year. Our demographic groups have remained primarily about the same, give or take a percentage or two. But I do want to point out, next year, you will see a significant jump. When I say next year, when I report this out next year, for this current year for our English language learners. So last year we were at 4.6%. Next year, or this year currently, we are at 8.2% English language learners. So that number does continue to rise. You will actually get an ELL program review from me, I believe in April or May, where we'll talk about some of this. But I just wanted to give you a heads up that that has been our most significant increase in student enrollment, where we're averaging about 3 to 4 new students a week at this point. So without further ado, I am going to turn this over to Sherry, who's going to talk about MSIP 6, kind of give you a little bit of background about MSIP 6, the history behind it, and then where we are as a district. So Sherry, take it away.
So good evening. The report I'm about to share with you is not only about numbers and percents, although there's a lot of them, it's about our students. From the moment our students step onto the bus, greeted by our dedicated drivers, to the end of the day when they wave goodbye to our attentive custodians, every day at SCSD, it is a testament to the unwavering commitment and determination of our entire staff. Whether it's the secretaries who keep our operations smooth, our educators who inspire and challenge young minds, or our administrators who lead with vision and compassion, each member of the SCSD family plays a pivotal role in ensuring that we are not just a district or a school, but a sanctuary where students eagerly come, they feel safe, cherished, and they immerse themselves in the joy of learning. Since joining the team in July 1, I have been astounded by the dedication that resonates in every corner of our community. It's clear that we are united in our mission to foster an environment where every student is inspired and nurtured to grow as a learner. We definitely reach, teach, and empower. So, jumping into our MSIP. So, we'll clap for that, right? So you see that there looks like there's, every few years, right, there's a change in MSIP. I just want to dive into really what that really means. So think about this. In 2018-19, there were new scales for science, and social studies had a field test, so no data was reported. 1920, COVID, we canceled testing. No testing happened. 2021, we tested, but it wasn't used for accountability, and there was a new social studies assessment. 21-22, the testing changed to where we tested where it was at 80% of our priority standards. So right after COVID, right when they released the priority standards, 22-23 came MSIP 6. This year, 23-24, in fall, we had the normal EOC platform. In the spring, we're going to have a new EOC platform. Thank you, Desi. And in 24-20, and they're predicting and projecting that we will have a totally new assessment in 25. So
I'm going to interrupt and just say, I don't know how we can ever have valid numbers and communication when they keep changing it every single year.
Ding, 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 ding. Hit the target, hit the target, hit the target, right. So just a little bit of background because there's a lot that goes into that, right? So basically, as of now, this is how MSIP is calculated or how it's assigned. The difference between 2022 and 2023, there's 12 more points this year, and that's because they added the new growth for science and social studies. So these are the 4 accreditation ranges. You can see those very clearly. I don't need to read them to you. So here's basically the breakdown of APR across the state. We are in the accredited status at 76%. So two things I want to point out, that there were four districts last year. None of the 4 districts that were above 95% in 2022 remain in that 95%. The number of districts scoring at or above 90% decreased from 41 to 22. So there's been some shifting that has happened, right? So just a little bit of knowledge of where, schools are at. So, as we just said, we are accredited. That's a great thing. We're at 76%. So we're going to start talking on the performance part, which makes up 70% of the MSIP score. So that's achievement, growth, success ready, graduation follow-up on all students and our student groups. So basically, DESE does not want to make it easy either. There's 3 different ways that they report out. So they report out target, on track, approaching, and floor. So you'll see that the majority of the report. They also report out above average, average, and below average. They do that on the student growth part. And then met or not met, and that's really on climate survey, kindergarten assessment, and required documentation that we have to send in. So on this page, basically, nothing really changed in student achievement for all student groups. We did lose a little bit of ground on ELA and math growth indicators, and we are aware of that, and we are working on getting that improved this year. Moving forward to science and government. Science and government, as I just said, why we have additional 12 points is they added growth to both of these, which did not exist last year.
And can I just jump in for a second? So growth is really challenging to determine how they came up with that student growth, especially for social studies. So we give the government test only once, and that's the student's junior year. We give the government exam. And so Jason and I actually sat in on a webinar yesterday. Sherry and I have sat in on several conversations with the state. And there are multiple factors that go into predicting how a student should or should not grow when it comes to government. So part of that is they look at their previous performance in other subject areas to predict how they might score on the government assessment. So they use ELA, they use math, they use science to determine how students would grow. In addition to that, they use their scores from middle school to help predict how they will grow on an assessment that's given their junior year. So I just want you to know that there's a lot that comes into that. As you can see, for government, our students they are on track. They did have average growth, but it's still a little concerning to see their algorithm and all of the pieces that go into that particular puzzle.
And to go with that, my husband is super duper smart, way smarter than me, engineer. I was having him read the DESE thing helping me understand again last night how we calculate growth. And he was like, what? Because it's like we use this survey and this study and this study and this study. It's the way I describe the growth, the way it's calculated is the man behind the magic curtain in Wizard of Oz. Mm-hmm. That's how it happens. So I would like to tell you more about really, but I can't. I don't have that kind of brain.
And she's not alone.
Nobody.
Yeah.
I sit in meetings with Phil, the superintendent, and Ed Plus has some of the best minds in terms of being able to break down this, and some of it's mind blowing.
It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And that is
yet
concerning.
they give you a report,
Pardon?
and yet they compile it all into a report
Right.
that the public judges you by, or we judge ourselves
Right.
by,
Right.
when all of this little
Yes.
manipulations and
Yes.
I
Yes.
don't know. They have spent so much time coming up with ridiculous new standards.
Well, yes, but that's all right. We jump through the hoops, but we're here for kids, and we do what's best for kids. That's just one thing we have to do. So moving forward to our other categories of success ready. On this is high school, so we're looking at the ACT, the ASVAB, work keys. We're exactly where we were last year, approaching advanced credit, graduation rate. We're on track and on target with those. And again, this part has not changed. Our climate survey, our attendance is still 50%. We'll talk about that in just a minute. But basically, this has stayed the same, consistent from last year's MSIP to this year's MSIP.
And one more thing, I'm going to jump in. So next year, we will see another increase in points. There's a section of MSIP that is called response to standards, and that's where the district, it's basically we write an essay explaining our processes. And so we actually completed that last school year, but we will not be judged on that or given a score on that until next school year. So we completed that in December of 2022, and it's December of 2024 is when we will actually get our score on that.
So timely feedback is awesome, right? That's really, yeah, that's really great. So, all right, we're gonna move into MAP and EOC data. So what you'll see on the charts is really comparing St. Charles to the state. And so you can see just like on 2019, we were above the state 4.8 points. The number above, it's discerning, right? Like, so we went down. So this is the percent of students that are proficient or advanced, right? So we lost 1.9% of our students proficient or advanced. But I want you to look at this through a different lens as well, okay? So of course, we never want to see a decrease in student data, but to look at it through a different lens, the Missouri Performance Index, which is MPI, which actually determines the status and on target and all that kind of stuff, basically shows that we had a decrease of 1.2 points so from 399 to 397.8 for all students and 1 point for our student groups. So yes, we don't like to go down, but it's 1 point, so just know how close that is. Then with math, we see that we had a 0.7 growth. That is students scoring proficient or advanced. So we increased our MPI by 2.1 points and our student groups by 3.1 points. So that is pretty awesome. And in science, we had a great increase, 1.1% of our students scoring proficient or advanced, an increase of. So this is pretty awesome, you guys. We increased 2 MPI points for all students. We increased 5.8 points for our student groups, which says a lot. And again, I just turned off. I'm done. Okay. For government, you see a negative 1.9. But here's the thing. So our total population, we went down 1.5 MPI points. Our student group increased by 3.3 MPI points. So there's lots of different ways to look at data, but so I want to make sure that you guys are seeing both of these. Okay, and now moving to our student groups. So this is just this year, 2023. You can see basically one thing on here, there is a mistake. It was late in the evening, I apologize. Our Hispanic, that should be -3, that we were down 3 points from the state, just so you know. But if you just look at it, we do have some work to do with our Hispanic students. You'll see this again when we get to government. But overall, we are above the state. Moving in math.
I do want to point out that
sorry,
some of that is, especially for our ELL students, remember English is a second language for them. And so, yes, they are underperforming a little bit. Some of that is kind of expected with the amount of new students that we have coming into the country, but we are working to overcome that.
And then with math, this is pretty awesome. We outperform the state in every single category of this. Of course, those numbers, we want those numbers to go up even more, but outperforming the state, we're pretty proud of that. Moving on to science, again, outperformed in some of it. I mean, look at our African-American students, outperformed the state by 26.9%. Pretty impressive. So we are working really, really hard with our with every single group. It's not even just this group; every single student matters to us. We educate all. And then
just a shout out on our special ed group.
Oh,
too.
just wait,
I know,
yes,
but
yes.
I had to say it.
Yes.
I know you're going to celebrate it. Too.
So then, again, our government, our Hispanic students struggle with this, but if you actually think about yourself, like government's really hard, right? And our government's very different from probably their government, right? And so for them to understand it and cope with it and, grapple with it, I can understand why this is happening, but we still want to make sure that we're reaching and teaching them. Moving on to our 4-year graduation. This is awesome. Basically, we had an increase from 85.2% to 89% of our students graduating. I mean, that's incredible, a 3.8% increase. which is awesome. So that's definitely a big celebration. Again, I didn't forget a graph. We had no ELL students graduate this last year, so that's why that bar is gone. But we are, look at those points, like even our students that we would say at risk, or our student group, they are graduating, and that is pretty awesome.
Well, and that, I would say, first of all, kudos to both high schools for a lot of the work they're doing, but also the changes that we've made to our programming at our Success Campus and the things that Brett Comer's is doing and his staff. And I think the numbers are going to be better this year in terms of graduation, but there's a lot of great programming happening there and meeting kids' needs and making sure we get kids graduated, so.
Absolutely, absolutely. And then our ACT composite score. This doesn't seem like a big jump of a 0.1. The state went down 0.2 points. We went up 0.1 point. And keep in mind, since COVID, many colleges are not actually even requiring the ACT, so our participation rate continues to go down. They're threatening that they're going to bring that back up, but I don't know if they will or not. But just to know that that's a huge, huge increase. So now I'm going to go to the continuous improvement part of the presentation. So looking at attendance, our attendance is up 8.3%. No, it's up 2.6% to 80.3%. Now this is huge. This is attributed from parents to our superintendent, constantly communicating every single day to every single person they see that kids being here every day matters, and this is where learning happens, where everything happens. So I think that this is community, this is all stakeholders involved in helping that our attendance get up. So that is awesome.
Sherry,
And
before
this
you
is
jump.
go ahead.
No, go ahead. I was going to say, this is a constant battle, though.
Yes.
It is a chronic absenteeism is a chronic battle that our administrators and teachers face daily and are fighting daily. And we understand kids get sick, and so we want you to keep them home when they are sick. But it is a constant battle that I just want you to know that our administrators, I hear from them all the time, attendance is one of their big concerns.
And when you talk about points and getting our, I'm going to throw it out there. Our APR score, I sure as heck think we're a lot better than the 76, 77% that we've had the last 2 years. Certainly think we were above 80. But some of these, this is points. These are the attendance, the graduation rate, those are, and obviously kids in school, more consistently means graduation and more successes. So we're really working on this. And full transparency, and Mr. Shields is not going to like this comment, but in terms of attendance, we're doing some great work this year. However, the implementation of Power Schools has been a struggle with some of the attendance reporting. So I'm just within our new system, because it's just, there's a lot going on there. So just I want to full transparency, we're really working hard on those things and making sure that our Power School is showing our attendance. But I'm a little bit nervous about that because we cannot have that dip. That has to go up.
Yeah.
And our administrators are working their tails off with this attendance piece.
And I kind of want to explain that number because I do realize we have some new board members. This is their first time sitting through a presentation like this. So that 80%, 80.3%, that is what we call proportional attendance. That is not our average daily attendance. Average daily attendance will typically be in the low to mid 90s for average daily attendance. But our proportional attendance, that's what the state assesses us over, and that is the percentage of students who have at least 90% attendance or greater. So 80.3% of our students were here last year at least 90% of the time. And to even put that in even greater terms, to fall below 90% of a school year, you have to miss 19 days of school. 19 days of school is an entire month of school that we have students missing. So we've had 20% of our students miss more than 19 days of school last school year. That is big. You think about missing an entire month of math. You think about missing an entire month of English language arts. Those are big. And when we talk about some of the things that principals are fighting and why they're concerned about attendance, because that is a big number. And we talk about 20%. We have 4,500 students, 20% of that. So what's that math? Like 800 students, almost 900 students missed 19 days of school last year.
So that's why it's a community effort. The other point on that is it's a double-edged sword having technology and one-to-one, and having our teachers do such good job of putting things online and helping students online to where some of our really high achievers or whatnot can do all the work and do really well in the class and not be there. So it's a double-edged sword. So it's a constant battle.
Did some of that, did COVID
Oh,
influence
absolutely.
the fact that
Yes.
now?
Absolutely. Our attendance rate dropped
have changed.
extremely after COVID.
And then here's our attendance for our student groups. So they're coming to school. They're doing good. So this is what the exciting part, because guess what? All that data I just showed you was 8 months ago. All of that data, 8 months ago. This is now. So this is what gets exciting, and this is since like me starting now. I love this. Okay, so this is our big focus. This is quadrant. So you may see me as the data lady, assessment lady. You're going to start seeing me as the quadrant lady, and I'm going to go through this because you're going to hear it lots and lots and lots. Quadrant 1, these are our rock star kids. These are kids who are high performing, high growth. They are doing it, okay? Quadrant 2, these are our low performers, but they're high growth. This is my absolutely favorite quadrant. So think about what we're saying with how some of our student groups are doing. So they're not achieving, but they are growing. So think about things that you don't really like to do. Do you want to keep doing them? No, so that means some of our students who are struggling, they're having a hard time with ELA, but they show up and they stay positive and they keep asking questions, and so they grow. Our quadrant 3 is, we got to wake them up. They're low performing, low growth. What's going on? And we're figuring that out. And then quadrant 4, this is a scary one, and this is one that's really hard to figure out unless you have an assessment like an iReady assessment. So these are kids who they're A students. They're proficient, they're advanced. They're like, yep, you're doing it, your kid's still great. But if they're not growing, that's not fair to them because every single kid deserves to grow no matter where they start. So you're gonna see a lot about quadrants. So I'm really excited about what's happening. So what's going on right now? I am meeting with every single school, every single PLC. You have to have 2 points of data to be able to do the quadrants, right? So iReady, which you guys approved last year, they took it in the fall, right? And they took it in December. Now we're able to chart how students are doing. So I'm meeting with every single, and they actually are dotting and charting where their kids are at. And you guys, their faces, like first they have to do a prediction where they think kids will fall. And then they actually see the data and they're like, holy mo, I'm actually doing, I didn't think she was learning. Like, and then you're like, wait, I really thought Sherry was growing more than this. So it really is eye-opening to where kids are at and the conversations that you can have with them, conversations you can have with parents. It really, really helps the teachers feel empowered and validated for what they're doing. So that's where we're at, what we are doing, what I'm doing right now with all the schools. And then we have the quadrant calculator, which is exciting because if in school improvement plans or whatnot, it may say we're gonna increase MAP scores by 10%. Well, what does that really mean? Who's doing it? Who's accountable for that? So now what we're doing is we're saying, okay, let's pretend in a school there's 856 kids. Let's pretend that in quadrant 1 and 2, those are the quadrants we want them because that means they're growing. They have 67%. That means in their school they have 573 kids in quadrant 1 and 2. Their growth target is 8%. So that means if they do it, they'll have 642 kids in quadrants 1 and 2 because they have to keep the other ones still up. So now they say we need to move 69 kids. So now we take it to the grade level. So the grade level has 105. They're at 74% in quadrants 1 and 2. Their target 2 is 8%. So that means they would have 86. So now this grade level has to move 9. And then you break it down to the teacher. So you're like, okay, I'm gonna move 3. And then of course, we want all kids to grow, but now we can focus and every single kid has a plan. So my hope is that from next year, from superintendent to board, to principals, to schools, to grade levels, to teachers, to kids, everyone will be on the same page looking at growth and talking about growth. And Earl, do you want to jump in about what someone said about Coverdale, that little say?
So we were walking through Coverdale about a month ago, and they had just given their iReady assessment, and I think it was a second grade girl, she ran up to the principal, biggest smile on her face, and she was so excited because she met her stretch goal, and she wanted to let us know that she met her stretch goal. And I texted her right away that our kids are excited when they are growing, we're celebrating their growth, and our teachers are extremely proud of the work that they're doing, and they are meeting to dissect this data and to plan next steps with students, so.
And they're
it's been
very
great.
excited. And here's what's cool about this too, and I'll move on, is there's in Galileo, or not Galileo, I'll talk about that one second. In iReady, there is what is your typical growth, which is you want to make 100% growth, and that means like you learned a year, right? There's also a stretch growth. And what we keep, iReady did a whole big research thing that said if a student is below grade level, and they meet their stretch growth 2 years in a row, it literally changes the trajectory of their life. Because like if I'm below grade level in 4th grade, even if I grew 100%, I'm still below grade level in 5th grade. But if I do it 2 years in a row, it changes my life. And so we're really, as I'm meeting with them, we're gonna really look at which of the kids. So I'm gonna say, if I'm 4th grade, I'll say, Earl made his stretch growth last year. It's up to you, Jeremy, make it, because then we're life changers. We're doing it, right? So people are getting excited. Okay, I'll move
Well,
on.
and the kids are owning it too.
They're owning this.
And one part that we've had a struggle in the district is really people owning what the scores look like even on the math test. And so all of the things that we're seeing right now and the excitement that we're seeing, we need that intentionality of that excitement and that growth and that performance then translate it to the EOCs and the MAP scores.
Yes.
And
That's the next step.
And that goes beyond just the numbers. It really shows how impactful it is for the kids.
It does.
Exactly, and that's why I say it's numbers, but as I'm meeting with the teachers, every single one of these dots is a kid, and there's a face behind that kid, and there's a family, and there's a story, so it's exciting. So go ahead.
My 2 first-grade grandchildren came home after their iReady test, and they were giving me all this data, and they could explain it to me.
Wow.
I was so impressed.
That's awesome.
That, yes, they were, and they're not geniuses, I'll just throw that out there. They're pretty cute.
I don't know, they might be.
But
They might be.
they actually
But at first
explained
grade,
it to
that's
me.
awesome.
And they're in 1st grade.
Yeah.
So, and they were very excited.
And that's great you said it, because remember, we by law, we needed to change some things and go to some of this assessment. We've already been doing assessments, but we went with iReady. And I'm telling you, you talk about cover out, we're in these buildings weekly, and this is what everybody's talking about. Everybody's talking about this in every school. And so it's just, and again, how does this get us to the point then that we're really performing then on and we're gonna get there, but it's exciting.
It is exciting.
And keep in mind, that's a K through 6th grade
Right,
assessment.
yeah,
so
thank you,
It's
yeah.
not 7 through 12.
So, so as of right now, grades K through 6, in ELA, we have 57% of our students in quadrants 1 and 2. And in math, we have 55% of our students in quadrants 1 and 2, which is really freaking awesome for the first year that we're implementing it, right? And then we have Galileo. So I'm going to be honest, a lot of folks aren't as excited about Galileo. And so we are going to replace that with a new assessment next year. So as of right now with Galileo, you'll see that it's almost a switch to where we have more kids in the low performance, low growth. And truthfully, I don't think it's because of our kids are low performing, low growth. I think I don't really like this test at all. No one cares, so I don't know. I don't agree that this is valid.
It's
Valid.
not a lot of ownership. They've been taking Galileo since 2nd grade. And so by the time they're a 10th grade, and I've been taking this now for 8 years.
Over it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it becomes a click through, next.
Yep. So.
And like Jason said, not owning.
So some celebrations really quick. So our attendance, as you know, is up 2.6%. Our graduation up 3.8%. Our ACT 0.1%, and our dropout rate is down 0.5%, which is pretty awesome. And our MAP data in ELA, the whole entire 5th grade, 6th grade, and English 2 all went up in MPI scores. In math, 3rd, 4th, 6th, and algebra 1, and in science, both 5th and 8th went up in MPI scores, which is a great celebration. So here's the big one, and this is a great one for you to go out on, Julie. Across St. Charles School District, county, thank you. Across the county, our SPED students outperformed every single district in the county. Woo! Julie, if that's not like a going away present, I don't know what is.
You know what? Can I say something?
Yeah.
Because I will tell you, Dr. Tormala and Dr. Draper and their team have worked with our staff probably, I don't know, maybe the last 6 or 7 years. I mean, I don't know, when I first got here, it was a little different, and then we finally just were like, our teachers, when we write curriculum, when we order curriculum, when we train on curriculum, like, our sped teachers, we push for them to get included, involved in all the same materials, and I think that's made a huge difference.
Clearly.
Because when I started teaching special ed, we got the old textbooks and the old, we were.
The stepchildren.
And so our curriculum department has done a great job of making sure that they are involved with helping
Because
write
all
them.
students have to have
Exactly.
core instruction.
Exactly.
It starts with core instruction
Yes.
Yep, exactly.
for all students.
Yes.
Huge celebration. So that is my part, and then Earl's gonna talk just a little bit. I'm sorry, I'm gonna lie. This year, what we're doing, I know I'm going long, I'm gonna go fast. So there's new data, a data website that all coaches and administrators have, so that it's one place for them to look at data, because I'm shoving it down their throat, like they have to have it all the time. There's an assessment website. I talked about the quadrants, having the data meetings. Something we're doing, our whole team is doing with the secondary, is we're doing assessment audits to look at, are we testing the priority standards? What do the questions look like? Is it what color jacket did Sherry wear for the board meeting? Or is it a really critical thinking question? So really looking at that. Hardin has IXL, which is a new assessment program, which may be the one that's adopted next year for all secondary. We're going to do a vendor presentation on that. Really looking at priority standards, proficiency scales, and curriculum alignment, because when we wrote curriculum, the priority standards were not released from DESE yet. And so we're filling in some of those gaps. And then before, the instructional coaches were led by one person, and this year it's our entire department that goes to all the meetings that help to make sure that we're all on the same page. So now, planning for next year.
So looking forward to next school year already, even though it's just January. So there's a couple of things that we are planning for next year. One includes our new ELA core resource. So I've talked to you all about state mandate for the science of reading. We adopted, we had to choose an assessment. We chose iReady for that one. And then the other part of that law says that our instructional material also has to align to the science of reading. The thing about the law with that particular component of the instructional resource is that it gives us the option. For the assessment, there were 3 assessments that we could choose from. When it comes to the instructional resource, they just said you must utilize a resource that is aligned to the science of reading. And so what we are doing right now, actually, we are rewriting or revising that curriculum so that we can meet that mandate. We actually have our first full curriculum writing day for our elementary teams this upcoming Wednesday right here in the room. So we are excited about the work that lies ahead when it comes to our ELA resource. We are also identifying an elementary progress monitoring tool, which will likely, I'm hearing from every teacher and principal and my coordinator for assessment and learning and data, that everybody pretty much wants My Path that comes along with iReady. So we are looking into that for next school year. As we talked about with Galileo has run its course just statewide, not just in our district, but statewide. And so it is time to select a new assessment or benchmarking tool for our secondary schools. Hardin this year is kind of piloting IXL, and they are extremely, just like our elementary kids are excited about their iReady data, Hardin students are just as excited about their IXL data, which is hard to get a middle school student to be excited about data, right? And so Jill, I know she's over there. She's even talked, was it Jill or no, Kathy? You talked about just the smiles on the students' faces when they take their assessment and they see their growth that's happening at Hardin level. So we are looking at that and other resources for our secondary schools. And then we do have new curriculum that's coming out for next year that we will present to you all later in the school year for your approval. We have social studies, secondary social studies coming to you. We have, of course, our K-6 ELA. Early childhood is writing curriculum right now, and so we will have that for you later in the year. K-12 music is writing, also K-12 PE is writing. And then starting next year, we begin the writing cycle for math, K-12, and our elementary social studies. That is actually all that we have for you. Any questions?
Yes.
Okay.
Uh-oh.
Well, Daniel asked questions about finance.
And I know,
Asked questions about teaching and learning. Last February, we got the same presentation, and congratulations on the tremendous jump in the graduation rate, because that it really is life-changing. You know, you have a fighting chance.
Yep.
If you've got a high school diploma. And the presentation said that there were steps taken to address graduation rate concerns, and they listed some of them, and restructuring of our success program, Missouri Options, 24 students, and I get that confused with most scholars. Missouri Options is the one that's on-site but online, right?
Missouri Options is the old GED, is what we refer to as
Okay.
GED. So it allows students to graduate with their high school diploma from our district by passing several assessments, 5 assessments.
Okay.
And there's a work
There's a
requirement.
work requirement as well.
Requirement involved as well. But that program, and I'll say this, and I don't want to lose your track of thought, but a lot of this we're talking about is the level and intentionality to what we do. You know, we talk, you know, we haven't said much tonight because we've celebrated before, but look at Lincoln scores, right? In terms of what they have done across the board and led all scores in the county as well. It's that level of intentionality of what we're doing and trying to go from here to here, and that's what we're doing. And that's what you see at the Success Campus at this point with these programming. But go ahead and go.
Okay. Reentry school, thank you.
Sorry.
Credit recovery, summer school credit recovery, and change in the passing grade. And I guess you've tipped your hand to my, the question, my answer to the question. Which of these do you think, do you know, has made the greatest contribution to this dramatic increase in the graduation rate that we haven't seen in years?
I think a couple of things. I think all hands on deck, our administrators, our teachers,
No,
or
from my list.
from your list, I would say
Yes.
the restructuring of success.
Okay,
That one
If I have a
is,
vote, that's what I would do.
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Can we do more of that?
yes, we have
Okay.
done more of that even this year.
Okay, has any attempt been made to quantify I'm searching for words, brain surgery, quantify the effect of each of these things that you implemented?
Not for each breakdown. We will do that when we do the success, because I believe that was from this presentation, or
February.
was it from successes?
Last February.
It was
No.
last February. So I have
February.
not gone in and looked at the effect on each, but I can tell you, in our YES program, we are pretty much maxed out. That's our daily attendance, the students who are there for every day. We have pretty much maxed out. We are now allowing freshmen to come over, freshmen who are showing credit deficient early on. We are bringing them over to Success for part of the day. We have a lot of students. How many students did Brett tell me? He texted us this week. They had a full house Monday morning when it came to second semester enrollment. The word is out, and students.
Are there any plans to expand that program?
Right now, we can't, just for sheer size of the building. We have expanded credit recovery, but as far as our alternative school, we are getting to the point where we are kind of maxing out with physical space at that campus to be able to take on more students. But we do have students in half-day programming and full-day programming over there at Success.
And what I would say too
And yeah,
is-
credit recovery moved back to the high schools so that we can
But
free up more
that's what I was gonna
space.
say. The key is, we have record number of kids that we're working with over there, but the key is, the whole programming has changed. We've gotten away of these kids coming over just to do credit recovery and put that back in the schools where they're getting help with credit recovery, and they're actually now it's instruction and getting a lot more needs.
It's about
being met.
alternative
It's
education as
alternative
opposed to credit
education. We have-
recovery.
We have revamped all that. So your question is, how do we expand that, or what does that look like? I think that's probably something we put in our next CSIP.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Because as we start looking at, and again, we can get into a rabbit hole here, but you've got, our attendance has dropped, or not our attendance, but our population has dropped a little bit. We're doing demographic studies to see where we're at. And I think it would be very important for us in the governance side of it, when we look at CSIP, is a look at the structuring of our buildings and what does that look like? And I think alternative education is a part of that. The other key is credit recovery goes back to the classrooms. And again, the intentionality to our core instruction. It's a huge part of this. And kudos to our teachers, so.
Yes, yes.
And on the test scores, we should be approximately 10 points above the state average, percent proficient and advanced. We are doing that, for the most part, in the elementary schools. And then something happens in the 5th grade. And the 5th grade scores are not good, and the 7th grade scores are not good. And in the presentation, some things were listed that were going to be tried. And I'm wondering what has not had a positive effect and what has, and would you take off the table, take off teachers' plates, anything that has not had a positive effect?
So can I say something on that? So it's the intentionality, so even looking at the quadrants and being very, like every data point has a student. What my understanding is, there's been a lot of autonomy on what is bought for, like what teachers or what administrators buy for their buildings. We are looking at all of those programs that have been bought and what's happening in this building, because there's been a lot of, let me throw the spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks, right? We have to be very intentional about what we do. And so even saying with 5th grade, I saw the same thing, 5th grade, 7th grade, right? But if kids are right now in 1st grade getting excited about their data and their growth, and this is something that continues, it doesn't happen overnight, right? Because we know. But it's that I do believe in my heart of hearts, because I did see this in my previous district, is that continues then when we make the next transition, because they do have a benchmark tool and we're still doing the same thing and holding kids accountable to that growth.
And we certainly recognize that those are transition years. 5th grade and 7th grade are the big transition years. So that's another piece that we are working through. So Jefferson is looking at their master schedule, trying to figure out how we can tweak that master schedule in order to accommodate for that big jump for kids going from 4th to 5th grade. Hardin is looking at adding, and I don't want to say this because it's not necessarily public, but they're looking at adding some transitional pieces for their 7th grade, so that to ease that transition to those new schools. So we definitely recognize that. I think that's something that we even talked about, even putting on the CSIP as well. How do we maximize to make that transition as painless as possible for our students, for our teachers?
And transitions have been on this last CSIP, so we've done a lot of work with that. But to your point of taking things off and/or, and Sherry was talking about kind of throwing some things at the wall. We've really systemized, with a systematic approach, really try to get down to exactly what we're using in each building. But obviously with 5th grade, it's the whole school. To your point, 7th grade has great teachers too, but you look at those 5th grade teachers at Jefferson, we have some fantastic teachers there. And so they obviously, and I'm not speaking for them, but I hear and see and talk to Dr. Denton, they, just like the kids, they can get frustrated at times, right? Because we think we're doing some really good things and there's some great teachers, but what are we doing to help support them and make sure we get to where they need to go? And that's what we're doing. And I think the structure of the schedule is going to be a big piece coming up next year for that.
And then Sherry talked about this in her presentation, but one of the things that, not just for 5th and 7th grade, but that we are doing across all grade level, is we are auditing the curriculum. We are looking specifically at the curriculum and how it aligns to the standards, dissecting the standards to see specifically what it is saying and how we are addressing those. And if we are finding that it's not being addressed in the curriculum, that's where our team is coming in and having conversations. Okay, there's a huge gap right here, and this is why our students might be underachieving in this area. And so we are having conversations on what we do this summer in order to rectify some of that. So we've started, since we are a new team, we have a C&I boot camp coming up here at the end of February, where we're gonna spend a couple of days kind of diving into the curriculum, mapping out how we look at curriculum, and dissecting kind of those standards and things like that. We're working through that at the secondary level when it comes to the assessments, and we've found some holes.
Yeah.
We've found some holes. We've found where assessments are only covering part of a standard. And so when you take the state assessment, it's covering the entire standard, but our assessment is only covering part of that. And so we need to fix that. And so those are things that we are currently working through.
So really quickly, just a quick analogy, like if I'm working so hard for a triathlon, this is just a quick analogy. If I'm like, okay, I've been running, and it's on flat ground, and I've gotten really good. I'm the leader of my pack, this whole group, I'm good. I got it flat, right? So I show up to the triathlon, and all of it, I see now that it's hills. Well, I never practiced with hills. So now I'm like, oh, and I died. So normally I could do it in 5 minutes. Now it's taking me 10 minutes, right? So I'm like, oh, well, at least there's swimming is next. I'm good at swimming because I've been practicing in the pool. I got it. And then all of a sudden now it's the ocean. And now waves are crashing on me. So now that's even harder. So I'm going backwards on that. Okay, well, at least biking is next. I know biking. Biking's flat. I got it. Well, all of a sudden you show up at this one and it's a dirt bike and it's a dirt path, right? So it's not that our teachers aren't working, right? Or the person didn't train for the triathlon. It's, are we training and are we working on the right things? Because our teachers are working their tails off. They're doing an amazing thing, but we have to make sure that every single priority standard is met to the full standard and making sure that we assess each of those.
And that once we identify that and where those holes are, that will naturally start to take some things off of plates as well, because our focus is in the right spot.
Okay. Well, next January, I will ask you about which of these things
Or
were
the most effective.
most effective.
I'm writing this down.
Raising the scores, because a tenth of a point is not a reason to spike the ball in the end zone.
Agreed,
you know.
yeah.
So I want to make sure we know, like, even if I'm on a cruise ship and we want to turn around, it still takes 10 miles to turn around. So we have to do, it's year to year, so there's going to be little by little, like, but as long as we're moving in the right, we have to move in the right direction. Any other questions?
Yeah, a quick question.
Yes.
I was looking at your charts there, and looking in the high performance, high growth area. What are you seeing in that area? Because I know it looks like we're concentrating on problems where we're at. What are you seeing in that area up there? Are we challenging them as well in that area, or are we seeing a decrease in their effort as the other one kind of raises up?
So we just got this, so they finished in December, so we're looking and analyzing and disaggregating the data right now. So meeting with the teachers, the one that we're really looking at is the high performing but low growth. And sometimes the kids don't know that they're not high growth. Like, even talking to one of the kids, are like, I want to grow. And so they don't even know because they're getting A's, they're getting proficient. So they're not really being challenged. They know coming in. So here's the thing. As a state of Missouri, and actually as the United States, we get so much professional development on how to move our kids from below basic to basic, right? How do we do this? So now they're like, wait, we really need to focus also on our outliers who are really high and having those conversations. And really, and one of the things is having data chats with the kids, even starting at kindergarten level, on what are you proud of? How are you gonna improve? And really having those kind of specific data chats. So on kids who are high performing and low growth, letting them know and how do you think we can help you grow? What do I need to do and what do you need to do? And bringing that in and even letting the parents know. So instead of being like, yep, you know what? Yep, Jeremy's awesome again. He's straight A's and he's this. And the parent's like, well, what can I do to help? But you can say, you know what? Actually, they're not really growing. I'm not seeing a lot of growth. So what do you see? So that's something that it's about conversations and awareness. And so I don't know the answer to your question yet. But I think right now awareness and then having those data chats and seeing what we need to do. And looking at some of the enrichment items that are in our curriculum and our resources to say, how do we enrich these kids? Because a lot of times our focus and all of our small groups are on all of our our students who are well below.
Yeah, that was my concern. I hear our focus is there. I just don't want to lose, like you said, those kids that are
They're at the top.
at the
Yes,
top. We want
yes.
to challenge them to go
Absolutely,
to the
because
next
they
level.
agree.
So-
I
Because
mean,
like
every
Sherry said.
every kid deserves to grow.
And to that point, one of our big rocks is our RTI response intervention. And response intervention is just not for our lower kids. It's for all of our kids, our higher kids too. How are we, if they're here, how do we push them more?
Yeah.
So,
And it's also giving the permission to the teachers to pull a small group with high kids. It's giving them permission, because our focus as a Missouri, right, is we're always looking at the little kids, the lower ones, but giving teachers permission to do some things with the higher kids.
I have a quick question. What percentage of our students are taking the ACT now? I know that the number's gone down since universities and colleges are not requiring it.
The number that's coming into my head, I'm not going to say for sure, but the number that's coming to my head is like 48% of our students. It's lingering right around there, and I can get back to you with the exact percentage.
Let me see if I can pull it up real quick.
Are we encouraging them to take the ACT, or are we?
I'm having
Here's my-
conversations about things we can do with, like, maybe even a day of testing where it's ACT and it's ASVAB and it's, the work keys, even maybe the compass test, just pulling it into a day of testing, but
And
Here's my concern with it. The more we test, the lower our scores usually are. But people test highest right out of high school.
Oh, for sure.
And if they take a year off or 2 years off, and then they try to take the ACT, they're not going to do as well as they would have done had they taken it right out of high school. So it's a catch-22,
well, it's
You want
fluctuated,
every-
right? I mean, the state's paid for it, they haven't
Right,
paid
the
for
state-
it.
Right.
We've
that's
had
the
testing.
key, is that the state no longer pays for
Everybody's
it.
tested, we have it, and now, a lot of the universities aren't even
Right.
looking at it anymore.
Yeah.
So, but to your point, I mean,
Well, we're reporting it as a data
Sure we are.
point,
Oh, sure.
so
And focus
I just
on
wondered
kids
what
taking it, yeah.
percent take it,
Right.
and that would affect the
Yep.
percentage.
absolutely, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
so,
When the state paid for it and everybody took it, our percentage was way higher. I mean, not like our composites were, but it was.
exactly right.
and scores were lower,
Right, because the percentage of students taking it was way higher, yeah.
right? And do we give the plan to every 10th grade student? Is it required?
what plan?
Plan
The
test?
plan test,
Do we give that to
the
every?
pre-ACT test
Uh-huh.
we give
Yes,
the
I don't think we
pre-ACT test.
To every 10th grader?
The ASVAB
Well,
we
the
give.
ASVAB.
We give the ASVAB to every student.
That's part of,
Right, 10th grade.
Yes.
So every student's
Every
doing
student
that in
receives
10th
the,
grade?
we do it 11th
Okay.
grade.
Well, the ASVAB's 11th grade, but the pre-ACT
Yes,
is 10th
10th
grade,
grade,
correct?
and some of that's part of
Okay.
MSIP 6.
It is, all of it's a part of it, so
Mhm.
that's
MSIP, yeah.
more for the
Kids
CCR.
have to all take it.
Yeah. And then by 12th grade, if you haven't taken something, we're going to give you something because you're going to take it if you missed it
Yeah.
in one of those grades.
Thank you.
Okay, any other? Thank you.
Mine's not finance related, sorry, but I do have one.
Okay.
With like, the student groups we have growing and checking everything now and having English learners nearly doubling going into this year, are we doing anything proactively or making sure we're putting the right resources in place to support that change? Is it going
Something
to
we talk
affect?
about
It's,
weekly.
I
In
keep
our
it,
COT
I keep,
meetings.
it is on our CO team agenda every week because, I'm gonna be honest, it's a struggle. Right now, we are not fully staffed for ELL. And so we have an open position and for the past 3 weeks, we've gotten candidates who've applied, but none of them are certified. And when I say certified, you have to have at least a Missouri teaching certificate, and none of them even have a teaching certificate. So that's the problem right now. So we actually have a new topic that we're going to discuss Monday in our COT meeting. Tuesday in our meeting to discuss, because yes, trust me, I hear from our teachers, I hear from our principals, and it is something that we are working on, but right now we are understaffed in that area. So I'm just going to be honest with you.
Did it kind of surprise us a little bit for knowing it jumped that much, or do we kind of?
Oh, that was a surprise. I mean, since the start of this year, the numbers have just kind of steadily been rising, and we're like, what's
We
happening
have central
here?
enrollment, and it is visually
There, yeah.
shocking to watch the amount of ELL families coming in to register. It's awesome, we love it, but it's,
Yeah.
and to that point, first of all, Sherry, awesome job.
Yeah.
Kudos to your
Yes.
team, Earl, they just do a fantastic job, and I will say this, as you said, you know, some of these percentages and things, you know, we certainly don't want to be spiking the ball. We have a lot of work to do. We have a lot of work to do. And when you look at the scores and you look at the APR, I live and breathe that APR score because do I look at other districts? You better believe it. And I want us to be, and I know the work we're doing. I want our APR score to be, and they know this, I want it higher. I want the growth, and we're gonna get there. We're doing the right work. We're not unlike any other district. Everybody has needs. But when we look at response intervention and our other big rock of student needs, that's for a reason. We have a lot of diverse needs in this school district, a lot. I'm not saying poor us. I love the kids that we have. I love the families that we have. And we are focused, to your point, of making sure we meet those needs strategically. And that's what we're doing every day.
Yeah.
We are not chasing scores. We're focused on student growth. We like for, and then we're not playing excuses, we like for the system to be a little bit fair and a little bit more to understand it. However, nobody is dodging any of the scores or the work that we have to do. And we are at it every day, and kudos to our teachers, our support staff. They work their tails off, and it's our job to make sure that they're working their tails off the right way.
Scores are a byproduct of the system, right? Not
Exactly.
the system itself.
Yeah.
Sure. So, I mean, with that, if we anticipate, or since there might not be a way of determining our growth for ELL, but if there is a way or something we can learn from now to try to be more strategic in our approach to help that in the future, I'm sure that's
Absolutely.
something that's obviously going to be considered for it. So.
Absolutely.
And then one of the other biggest strategic things that we can do, and it sounds sad or very simplistic, is filling teaching positions.
Yeah.
And support staff positions, right, ladies? I mean, but that's why, and Dr. Lewis has done a great job. We are having staffing conversations and are already hiring for next year, and we were doing that in December because we have to be. I mean, we cannot go with open positions. We just can't.
Karen, to answer your question, 44% took the ACT. Yeah.
Yeah. 44.
44. Yeah.
It would be interesting to see the pre-ACT, what we used to call the plan scores from 10th grade, because that would be everybody. And it's not assessed, you know, it's not part of, so it would just be, I would be interested in seeing those scores,
Okay.
since they're for everyone.
We can get that.
Do we have any more discussion on the presentation? Do I have a motion to approve the instructional effectiveness and student achievement and at-risk program review?
I move to approve the instructional effectiveness and student achievement and student group program review as presented.
I second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? This program review is approved. Item 8.01, this is our food service bid. Thank you all.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm almost embarrassed now to present this out, knowing the importance of what we just discussed, and now we're talking about food service. How boring
service is just
can
as
it
Food
be?
is just as
How
important.
boring. When we're talking about kids, we're talking
We
about
like
growth.
to eat in this district too.
I know, I get it. But man, it just feels so deflating. So the food service bid, obviously, this is state mandated every 5 years. We have to go out for bid for this. So this was our bid year for this to go out. And this has started back on October 2nd when we compile the RFP, get state approval for the RFP, what's in it, before we send it out, post it online and send it to the St. Louis Post. But also then send it out to any of the vendors that had requested or had shown interest to the district in our RFP. So from there, once we post it, once we advertise it on November 8th, we had a mandatory pre-bid meeting. We had 4 people show up to that, 4 vendors show up to that. Aramark, TAIR, SFE, Southwest Food Excellence, that's that's their name, and then Chartwells, which is the incumbent. We ended up visiting St. Charles High School, we visited Hardin, and we visited Blackhurst, just kind of giving them a rundown of what our kitchens look like and then answering any questions they may have. From November 8th to December 14th, which was when the bids were due, I answered any questions that the vendors may have proposed to us. It ended up being a file of about 200 pages in totality back to each of the 4 vendors trying to answer all the questions that they had, some of which were just financials that they were requesting that we sent back to them. So December 14th, bids were due. December 18th, committee evaluation of the bids. The committee evaluation was made up of 3 administrators, 2 elementary, 1 secondary, Dr. Seifert, Jenny Jenkins, Director of Business and Accounting, and myself. We reviewed that. We took notes on those proposals, which were only from 2, SFE and Chartwells. Aramark and Terra both sent language to us saying that they were not interested at this point in time. I tried not to take it personally, like maybe my visit around the district discouraged them, but they did not submit proposals. So we were down to Chartwells and SFE on our evaluations.
You want to share with them one comment that one made about the reason why they thought maybe that we were in good?
So
I thought that was important.
I thought it was
It's
an interesting comment.
positive comment.
And it was a positive comment about our current vendor. It said, it appears that Chartwells is taking very good care of you. And again, we give them all of our financials. We give them the audited statements, we give them the DESI statements. All of that gets pushed out to each one of our groups. So anyhow, we evaluated, came back in January, early January, the 5th, I believe it was, discussed it more, and then did a rubric guide, grading on that. Chartwells was the clear winner of the proposals based on the evaluation committee. One of the things that we have to evaluate on is the financial aspect. The state mandates that it has to be the highest evaluated criteria, and that was a 20-point criteria basis for the financials, and Chartwells had the best financials in each one of the areas that we were able to look at. They're also the large company. They have the largest purchasing power. They give the best rebates at this point in time because they are a worldwide company. Those factors go in their favor. So that's what we're recommending to the board to approve is Chartwells for July 1st of 2024 with a recommendation for consideration, which you guys hear for the next 4 years. That way we don't have to repeat a process over and over and over again.
And how many years have we've been with them?
From what I understand, we've had them for 28 years. That's my understanding, that they've been in the district.
And just a kudos to, just a shout out to all the Chartwells employees, and then led by our director, Michelle Fohe. She just does a fantastic job for us.
I only have 2 questions. Perfect. On the second page, the bottom section with the financials there, can you talk about that a little bit more?
Yes, absolutely.
I think I understand it, but I want to make sure.
Chris, do you want to go to that second page for us, please?
Yeah, I think I understand the top piece, talking
bottom.
about the total food cost, but around the net surplus. And what
Yeah, the
those-
district net surplus. So this is what the guarantee is, $200,000. Chartwells is guaranteeing us that we will receive $200,000. SFE was guaranteeing a $29,736 revenue back to the district. Capital investment, Chartwells is going to invest back in of their own money, back into our kitchens, $77,881. They don't have to take in the transition cost. So that's where you'll see SFEs almost double that component. They also had some things in there like coffee trucks as part of that investment. Didn't necessarily ask for coffee trucks in our RFP, but nonetheless, it was in there. And then the investment.
We do like coffee.
Yeah, coffee's great.
We do enjoy coffee. Investment fund, Chartwells does offer, if we want, $250,000 no interest loan for us to spend in our kitchens however we so desire. Now, a lot of times what we would use that for is kitchen equipment, or like convection ovens and things of that sort. So all that has to be procured in a very reasonable fashion, a legal fashion, because the state certainly looks at that. So then you look at the 1-year guarantee is what the top number, the district net surplus was, and then the total funds available year 1, the guarantee plus the investments, you see that there. Even with just the guarantee, no investments, you see Chartwells is still decidingly It's decidingly so.
Yeah, and I think that's what it looks like from this one and from the tabulation. I thought it was just important too, when you look at it, to highlight that in this
Absolutely.
sense, a higher number is better and it's getting us
Yeah.
more support and stuff. Absolutely. So that's positive. The second question really is around how satisfied we are with the performance of Chartwell's. 'Cause I think, as another vendor said, they seem to be taking care of us well. But I think it was either last meeting or the meeting before, we had a student come and kind of express an experience. It seems like an isolated incident, but is there anything we want to talk further around that, or have we done something about that situation kind of specifically?
That was the first food complaint that I have received from the community, was in that presentation, not diminishing that complaint at all. I believe a response to that was appropriate from Chartwell's, and specifically the director of going and making sure that they were doing site visits at that specific location of the complaint, doing additional surveys for that staff and students, and then also following up with that moving forward. And talking to the employees within that kitchen, because as you guys know, we're all humans. Anytime there is a complaint, you want to protect, you want to defend, and wanted to make 100% certain that was not the reaction at all. So I feel like that was handled very well, very appropriately, in an extremely professional manner.
Awesome, that's,
Really, there was some food audits done, correct? I mean, they got in there and checked the food, and we kind of checked up with them as well. And even the the administrators, to the point of the partnership that we have with them, right? It's not just, it's just Chartwell's. They're part of what we do. And again, not discrediting, I thought the young ladies that came, and, it was a great experience for them to come to talk to us. We took it serious. We went in and looked. If you want to know, we looked to see how many times those students eat and what does that look like, just to get, and not everything added up, but we certainly wanted to make sure we got in there and did our due diligence. And I think the director of food, I'm just being honest, and then our director of food service, Michelle, authentically and genuinely was concerned to make sure that anything was corrected. Now, again, does every kiddo love to eat school lunch? No, I mean, but to answer your question for me, I've been here 6 years as a superintendent, 8 years altogether. When I got here, I came from a district that had its own food service. So I came in going, I'm not through, I just don't know how I feel about having a vendor for that. Chartwell's has been a great partner for us.
Can I actually say something to that? I know I have no say in this is not my department.
Stay in your lane with
I'm gonna stay in my lane. But
kidding.
as someone who has worked in other districts, and no knock on other districts, but when they operate their own, many times it is frozen food that is just heated up in the oven. I will say Chartwell's actually cooks. When I got here and saw them on a stove, cooking over a stove, I was so impressed, because kids are actually getting cooked meals and not just something that's frozen and heated in the oven.
And it's a partnership. They're invested in what we do. They give back to us with Care to Learn and Michelle's not just, the Chartwell's director. She is one of our 5 directors underneath, almost said Ronnie, Jeremy, and she comes to all of our administrative meetings. I mean, she is a part of what we do. It's a strong partnership.
Yeah, and I think we've heard before from them too. They've come and talked about healthy balances for diet and all that stuff. So I think that's awesome to hear. I was just kind of curious about it. I appreciate, and I think we have an expectation for that kind of response. Whether, whatever the belief is, when you hear feedback, it's always first good to have community coming in, engaging and hearing something and taking it as an actionable item. Whether it turns out to be one way or another, it's still something we can learn and grow from. So I appreciate all of that information and that response, because I think that's kind of what we're looking for. So I don't have any other questions.
Okay, if there aren't any other discussion, do I have a motion to approve the food service bid as presented?
I move to approve the food service bid as presented.
All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? That passes.
And just for clarification.
Chartwell's.
No, I was just going to say the state has to sign the contract before we're allowed to sign the contract. So we won't sign a contract tonight because the state has to sign it, and then I'll bring it.
Okay,
That's
so
how the
we've
process
approved the
works.
bid.
Yes,
We
we
approve the
approve,
bid.
we
It's
approve
okay
it.
for you to pre-approve it.
Yeah, absolutely. I made sure to get clarification on the state from that before I brought it
Okay.
to you all.
I thought you were going to correct me that I didn't name the company that
No,
we do. But
I just wanted to make sure I clarified.
Yeah, and I do see in the motion, it says it's the bid that we've approved, we haven't signed anything, so. Okay, item 9.01,
All right. Almost
this is
9
our
o'clock.
financial report.
All right, so you heard last month, December's a big month for us. January continues to be a big month for us as far as revenue goes. And what we saw was on December 5th, we did not get that first check that we would have typically seen from our local revenue, which gave me a little bit of concern of, you know, will we have a little bit of a delay in revenue or not? It turns out probably a lot of people just waited till the end of the month because the revenue certainly started flowing in very quickly for us to the tune of about $32 million, a little over $32 million, $32.5 out of local revenue came in for the entire month of December. I think it was like $5 million of that was on December 5th. So a significant chunk of that local revenue started rolling in, so we're sitting very well. I wanted to give you a little bit of a comparison to 2022. Our spending is down about $2 million from the previous year. And some of that probably has to do with insurance, but we don't want to speculate. But I do believe that that's what we're seeing is a slight change in some of our insurance spending. And then our revenue right now at this point in time is up about $13 million. But it's some of that reimbursables from the federal government that has increased that, not so much the state piece. We do know the state piece, with it being a real estate assessed year, and the increase in that is certainly going to bump it, but a lot of that is being challenged by the increases in salaries and benefits that we're seeing nationwide. The other piece is that we're going to see, we found out that we're going to see an increase in just our insurance, music, the insurance consortium that protects all of our physical property. And you guys are going to probably see this in your own lives as well, 20 to 30% increases. Because the insurance companies are having to make huge adjustments because of national issues, not like local issues, even though locally we've had major struggles. So that's something for us to think about. So right now, financially, from the numbers that we have, we are doing very well as a district, but that's a piece that we're thinking about as we start to create next year's budget. The other piece that we have to think about now is that legislative season is opening. And so next week, there's going to be some bills heard that are going to reference the personal property tax once again. And once again, there are 2 bills out there right now. I don't know the numbers off the top of my head, but I do know that they're out there to be discussed, and they're virtually the same, which instead of eliminating personal property tax, I believe what they're wanting to achieve is for every % gain that we would get in real estate, they would take that % off personal property all the way to the year 2073, and they're hoping it stabilizes. So then all of the taxing would be on real estate, which you know what that would probably do to real estate when that becomes the main form of tax collection for local monies. It puts that burden on the housing market rather than a choice of personal property. So there's going to be some fight, I'm sure, within the legislation on that. Again, not trying to give opinion, but we do have locally, in our local money, there is protection that we can never grow our monies in a windfall. It's a 5% cap in any given year. So even though we know our market, the economy has been growing, inflation's been growing much higher than 5%, we would never catch that market, and we'll never regrow that. So that's one of the main complaints with what we're seeing within the teaching industry is, yeah, you're paying us more, but the cost of living is so much higher than what our gains are, and that's typically the story we have. And so I just want to bring that to your attention because that's something that we feel, that we think about, that we get concerned about as we start trying to plan with our association groups on. We want to value them by showing them their worth in finances, but we also have restrictions and we have concerns as we move forward. Of course, we're talking about that. It's not something that's hidden.
And to that point, we'll continue to keep you updated. I had my first session on Monday. We do a weekly update about what the session looks like. It's going to be a very interesting go here. A lot of infighting, a lot of going on, a lot of on both sides, the House and the Senate. So we'll just have to see how it goes. But there's not only the personal property tax, but the big push is going to be open enrollment again. I mean, and that all directly and indirectly affects our bottom line, so.
If we were to have made very progressive changes in legislation, you would like to not have them happen all at once, right? And that's always been my fear with the personal property, with the bill for our senior citizen groups. That's still out there, and it is approved. Now they're trying to have language at defining the age. You'll see that in the legislation now of 62. And then the open enrollment, that could put some financial, there's no trend to determine what that impact that could have on any school district, let alone St. Charles. So those are concerning time. It's just concerning, that's all. Something for us to pay attention to.
And we'll update you as best we can on how the session's going.
And outside of that, like I said, finances are looking very good.
Any finance questions? Oh, okay. No, well, I just kind of glanced that way. Do I have a motion to approve the financial report as presented?
I move to approve the financial report as presented.
Do I have a second? I second. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? The financial report has been approved. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn the meeting.
Do I have a second?
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned.
It was a good meeting. Thanks, everybody, for hanging in there with us tonight. A lot of good discussion.